I like to start by sharing the story of how I accidentally started a human rights organization. In the summer of 2009, Iran was filled with pre-election excitement. Iranians were campaigning day and night for the reformist candidates. Then the election was quickly called for the conservative incumbent Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. The rallies quickly turned into massive protests as Iranians assumed a rigged election. The government of Iran, seeing the biggest uprising since the 1979 revolution, was taken back. Worried for its very existence, and rightfully so, it cracked down violently. The world was watching, and so was I from my house in California.
اینجا کجاست که ما اینقدر مظلوم گیر افتادیم؟ اینجا کجاست که کسی ما رو یاری نمی‌کنه؟ اینجا کجاست که ما فقط با سکوت خودمون داریم صدامون رو به گوش دنیا میرسونیم؟ اینجا کجاست که خونه جووناش ریخته میشه و مردم تو خیابون وای میسن نماز میخونن؟
That poem broke my heart. All people of Iran, all people really want is to be left alone, to be happy, to live their lives to its fullest potential, and they doubly want that for their children and for their grandchildren. To me, there's nothing that is a more universal human desire. And to see the Islamic Republic crush the body and the spirit of its people, of my people, crushed me. I had never worked on Iran or directly on human rights, but I decided I would have to do something. And I would organize a rally that would encompass the globe. So within 3 weeks' time, with hundreds of other concerned citizens, I was not the only one, we organized what we called the Global Day of Action. On July 25th, 2009, we had rallies in 110 cities. I'm not sure how many people were in the streets. I think over 100,000. In San Francisco alone, we had 10,000. 8 Nobel Peace Laureates lent their voice, and the band U2 projected pictures of the protesters during the song Sunday, Bloody Sunday on the concert walls.
Protesters in more than 100 cities around the world are sending a single message to Iran's leaders: free the protesters. As you can see, the only continent free of demonstrations today, Antarctica. The group United for Iran wants an end to the crackdown on people disputing Iran's controversial presidential election.
That day is still the biggest day of solidarity for the people of Iran in history. Shortly after, I transitioned from my job and started United for Iran, where we work to improve civil liberties in Iran. For the first few years, we focused on magnifying the voices of those inside Iran's prisons and on the streets, but then the movement went dormant as the crackdowns continued. And we also wanted to transition away from reactive, rapid response and focus on being more strategic and systematic. In 2015, we launched the Iran Prison Atlas, a database of Iran's political prisoners, the prisons they are held in, and the judges that sentence them. One can view the profile of a political prisoner, in this case, Narges Mohammadi, who is a prominent human rights defender, currently serving a 10-year sentence for defending political prisoners, or click on her prison, Evin, or on her judge, the infamous Mughisa. Or one can zoom out to look at systematic patterns of abuse. Which judges are the biggest culprits? Which ethnic or religious minority groups are most persecuted? And which prisons are responsible for the biggest abuse? In our quest to ever be more effective and strategic and secure, we search for the answers to the following questions. More than half of my staff were in the streets of Iran during the 2009 uprising. They have first-hand experience with imprisonment, harassment, and torture by the Islamic Republic. They left Iran, and they were refugees. I have been called an anti-revolutionary fugitive, which I think is a pretty badass title. I've put it on my business card. So we're not going back. So how do we work with this massive physical barrier? And how do we scale? Technology has been our answer. We will always defend Iran's political prisoners and support Iran's civil society. But how do we also engage hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Iranians in areas that they are interested in, at the level of risk that they want to take? And how do we also ensure relative security in Iran? The world cannot take another Syria, the heartbreak of our generation. And our answer has been to continue our human rights effort, but to expand and mostly focus on civil liberties. Last year, we launched Iran Incubator, our civic tech incubator, through which we work with civil society to build tools, mostly mobile apps, to support civil liberties in Iran. Meet Niloufar. She's the captain of the soccer team, also known as Lady Goal. In 2015, she had plans to participate in the Asian World Cup, and her husband forbid her from going. You see, in Iran, as a woman, when you're married, you give up your right to education, to work, to leave the country, to divorce, and what gets me the most, to custody. Can you imagine having to pick between living in abusive or a marriage you don't want, or living without your children? I can't. Turns out, though, there's a solution. Marriage licensing in Iran are prenups, essentially. So if they include language that gives both parties equal rights, that language is upheld in court of law. So knowing that, through Iran Incubator, we built an app for that. Turanj, thank you. Turanj provides that sample language as well as information on divorce and custody. He also educates women about sexual assault and harassment. Our other apps focus on Iran's 2.2 million drug users, on sexual health for women, and on informing voters prior to the election that we had just last Friday. Our apps have been downloaded 100,000 times and viewed nearly 2 million times. It has taken a lot of work and trial effort to have that kind of traction from the outside. Turanj is one reason we believe in success of civic technology. Here are two other ones. We know human rights work is hard, dark work. Essentially, we're slowing down or at best stopping bad things from happening. Civic technology is allowing us to envision a new Iran and to create it and to celebrate it and have fun. We have heard from our friends from Latin America that humor is what keeps them going. These things are so rare and so critical in this line of work. Also, Iran is ready, and so are Iranians. More than half of Iranians have smartphones, and 1 million new ones are being added every month. We saw from the election last Friday, Iranians are globally minded and liberal-leaning. They're young, they're techie, they're educated. 70% of the country is under the age of 35. This young population is now doing online what it cannot do on the ground, in the streets. It's assembling, it's organizing, it's expressing itself. Technology is allowing us to do these things. It's essentially allowing us to take our country back. And through Iran Incubator, we are building the very first apps for good inside Iran. We're paving the road of civic technology. Under this veneer of conservative, oppressive regime, we have a happy, hopeful population shining through. This is last weekend's folks in Mashhad, Iran, celebrating the results of the election. This is Iran. In case of women, for example, there are 3 million Iranian women over the age of 30 who have chosen not to get married. Upwards of 70% of those entering science and technology university are women. Imagine what these women would do if they had gender equality and all the freedom they deserve. When I first started doing this work, I wasn't sure if we were going to have lasting impact beyond systematic solidarity, because we work from the outside. And over the years, I've realized not that only we can have impact, there are certain things that only those of us outside can do. We have been able to, because of security and capacity, document the cases of 2,000 political prisoners, build a dozen apps in 2 years' time, running a nonprofit, surely fundraising, trying to change an entire country with a handful of fellow activists from the outside. These are not easy tasks, no. But we're not going to prison for it. Not only do we have the ability, I believe we have the moral duty and the mandate to support civil liberties, human rights, and civil society around the world, especially in its darkest corners. Thank you.